Hi everyone, welcome back. So, as part of the DevOps course, another module we are going to start Linux. Okay, so Linux is very important in terms of shell scripting, Linux commands. As a DevOps engineer, you are the responsible to should know all types of commands and how to install the softwares in the Linux machine. Okay, and how to create virtual machines. We have a different types of flavors also. We have, you should, as a DevOps engineer, you should be have an idea. Even for developers also, minimum basic commands you should know, like creating the user, updating the user, deleting the user, and you want to copy files from one location to another location, how the Linux directory structure, lot of things you should be aware. In today's session, let me start head start up for the Linux, so that once you are comfortable, okay, creating virtual machines in our AWS, and then you should be aware the context why we are need Linux is so popular. You should be have an idea. Okay, now basically we have two types of operating systems. We have, what are the operating systems we have? We have a Windows operating system and Linux operating system. Hope everyone knows this activity, right? Windows and Linux. Windows is part of the Microsoft. It is introduced. Windows basically it is a user friendly. It is basically Windows operating system is used for the general people and user friendly. They can interact the application with the GUI. But Linux, if you talk about the Linux, it is a basically for the programmers, administrators. Your work will be very fast compared to Windows. Linux is the, you have a more access and more control on the Linux virtual machine. Okay, basically Linux we have a lot of flavors also. We have, like when I see, basically we can create your own Linux machine as well. Basically, if you take the Linux flavors, if you think about a Linux flavors, if you see, like Ubuntu Debian based system package. Okay, we have a Red Hat, we have, and we have a Amazon EC2, we have a CentOS. Lot of Linux flavors are available also. That's why Linux is a popular, and they can customize however they want. Basically, in terms of, okay, Windows and Linux, how the architecture will look like. Basically, if you take, okay, whether if you take Linux or Windows, okay, what are the things required? You need a hardware, you need a CPU, and you need a RAM. This is a common for Windows and Linux for both approaches here. Think like this is a Linux machine and this is like a Windows machine. On top of this system, we have called OS. Here, on top of this, we need to install our OS here basically. This we need to install about OS here. Basically, we have one component called kernel component here. Basically, this component is a mediator between your hardware and your application. On top of this, okay, here we can create small case applications, like assume that this is a Chrome application, or you may see this is kind of a Facebook application. Why? Because you can run in your local system, you can run other systems as well. Here also I can do the same kind of activity as well. Then what's the diff? Here you can create your applications. Okay, maybe you want to install a Jenkins you want to install. You want to install the Docker. You want to install some Nexus repo, or lot of softwares you can install on top of your Windows and Linux as well. Then where the different, basically if you see one component that is called kernel, basically in Windows and Linux both, kernel what it will do, it will create a bridge between your hardware and software of virtual machine. Basically, this kernel only core component, it will interact directly with the hardware and managing the resources and providing essential services to run your application here. So that's why kernel is very important as part of your OS. Okay, now then why Linux is popular? Main things called performance. Performance of the application, if you compare, okay, if you run any multimedia or any Photoshop, if you do in the Windows, even you have a more RAM, still there is a chance of a struck will happen. Basically there is a hang will happen in Windows. But a Linux, if you compare in terms of the performance, okay, it's very good at the performance level. Okay, and another important factor called security. Compared to Windows, more security for the Linux machines here. There is a hacking for the Windows can do easily, but Linux virtual machines most and secured way we can do that. Yes, Windows also they are doing lot of things as well on top of that. Okay, and a customization. Yeah, if I want to create another OS by using Windows, I cannot create. By using the Linux, we have a Unix is the base foundation. Using that, I can create how many virtual machines, your own flavors you can create. We have a customization we have here. Only in terms of Linux, GUI is not that much good compared to the Windows. GUI comparing Windows is user friendly, but Linux more for the developers here. In terms of the cost also, Windows you need to purchase the license, but Linux we can make it as open source as well. Basically, in the real time organization, Linux is used for the development and server usage also. Linux is the popular here. So that's why everyone will recommend to know. Okay, Linux as well also here. It's not like a small topic, guys. Lot of things we can discuss in the Linux which you don't know basically here. So to start with our immediate effect, what we can do, hope you have an AWS account. Why? Because we can create our virtual machines in our AWS or Azure or GCP. Now we are taking as AWS. Here I can create my EC2. Basically in cloud platform, EC2 is nothing but a virtual machine. This is nothing but a Linux machine. Is basically it's kind of a virtual machine. You can create a Windows operating system, Mac operating system, and Linux operating system as well. Now let me quickly show you here. Whenever I want to practice, make sure I want to use AP-South1 region here. Okay, now see here, I want to create a EC2 instance. In the search bar, just you can type as a EC2. I want to create a virtual machine for the Linux. Let me create the virtual machine. Yes, there is an option called launch instance here. Okay, basically when you are creating a virtual machines, we need to consider a lot of things. Right now the main intention of today's session is you need to understand about Linux machine directory structure, Linux commands. If you install a software, what kind of users are there, everything you should be aware here. Okay, now let me create a virtual machine, make it as a Linux VM, just a hyphen test here, or I can say DevOps hyphen Linux here. As a DevOps engineer, definitely you should be aware here, guys. Okay, now let me go to here application and OS images. Here we have see here flavors, Amazon Linux, Mac OS, Ubuntu, Windows, Red Hat, lot of images also there. We are taking for our example purpose as a Ubuntu virtual machine here. Okay, now here free tier eligible, I want to use 22.04. Okay, this is the virtual machine I am choosing right now. Always don't choose latest version, choose in the prior version here. Now see here, this is called a Ubuntu server here basically, and a general purpose SSD volume time support, all the things are available for this machine. If you go to bottom down, as part of your practice you can choose as a micro. If you are unable to work, this speed is less, you are unable to, system crash are happening, make sure I want to use for my practice as at least T2 medium. Whenever you are creating Linux machines, 2 vcpus 4 GB of memory is required. At least you want to install some applications, you want to work on top of that, you can use this virtual machine right now. Okay, now if you want to connect basically to Linux virtual machine, how many ways? Basically it is a Linux virtual machine. If you want to connect with Linux machine, basically we have two options, guys. Basically in your local system, by using VMware, if you install your Linux machine by using username and a password, and by using your public and private key here, by using the private key, basically using SSH we can do, and we can log into Linux virtual machine using these two approaches here. Basically providing username is password is not secure, and no recommendation here. We will not do. There is no security for username and password. Every time I should share to everyone. In production grade applications, always we should go by using the key value pair format. Basically it is kind of a public key and private key here. See, there is called public key and private. Using certificates I can access your Linux machine here, so that it will be a more security for your Linux machine. Now suppose this is your Linux virtual machine, this is your Linux VM, this is a there is a Linux VM here. Now and here this is from your, this is your local system. Maybe this is your local system is nothing but a Windows here. Okay, now communicate I want to communicate this Linux machine, sorry, from your local to Linux VM. To communicate here, but when you create this EC2 instance, AWS is providing two things. If you want to communicate, you should have a private key in your local system, and here there is a public key is available. This is nothing but, in your terminology to explain this activity, this is called lock. Whenever you are going out, for your doors you will be lock, and you will have a key, right? Think in this approach here. Now when you create a virtual machine in your AWS account, okay, in AWS account, when you are creating this machine, AWS will keep a lock into Linux VM. That is nothing but your public key. Now if you are a owner, and if you are a developer or anyone who are creating this machine, you should have a key. If you have a key, then only you can able to open this machine, else you cannot open this machine basically here. So that's why here we are using as a private key. Using this key I can log into this machine. Then who is responsible to keep this public key? Our AWS. Amazon is responsible to keep this public key into the VM. To do this activity, here we have an option called key pair. Read this point. You can use a key pair to securely connect to your instance. Ensure that you have an access to the selected key pair before you launch the instance. Here we have an option called, see, create a new key pair. Click on this option. It will give an option here. Maybe let me make as a DevOps underscore key pair. Throughout our course we will use basically this key pair as part of creation of your Linux machine. And see, key type is a RSMC, encrypted private and public key pair, and is another type of algorithm. One of the RSA algorithm you using private key file format. If you are using putty, then .ppk file is required. If you are using OpenSSH, if you choose .pem from your if your OS is with Linux also, by using SSH you can communicate as well. Right now I am using .pem and click on the create a key pair. Now it will download this key pair into your local system. If you forgot, this key pair is deleted, you cannot access this machine. So you should be stored it somewhere into this key pair, into some our GitHub or somewhere in a local repo, wherever you want secure way you should keep it in your local system. Once you have the key pair, you will get a drop down. Choose this DevOps underscore key pair. Whenever you are creating an AWS account for Ubuntu, okay, this is a Ubuntu VM and there is a default username is Ubuntu here. Default username is Ubuntu and the password is, what is the password? Your password is the private key, which is the form of .pem extension here. This is the way you can access your application here. Okay, now here this is done. Now we have called network settings. Okay, inside a network settings we have an option called, see here, two, there is a firewall, a security group we need to create. Now inside your AWS account, now assume that this is your AWS account, guys, out of the box. Okay, now this is your AWS. Inside your AWS, now this is your public cloud. Now you have a Linux VM. Now this is your local system. To access, basically to access application, okay, for this Linux VM, okay, a port should be enable. Port should be enable. Which ports you want to access? Basically when this concept will come, this port means when you install Jenkins, you want to access Jenkins application from your local system. From which IP address you install the Docker or you install some other software to access application from outside of your cloud, port should be enabled here. This is, this port is providing in the form of the security group. Firewall, are you able to see? Firewall is a security group here. Here you can create your own security group name as well. Now what we can do, click on the edit option. Now here, once you click on the edit, there is a default VPC, ignore as of now. Now here what we can do, DevOps, you can provide any security group, guys. Now what I, DevOps underscore security group. DevOps, I am creating my own security group here. Now here you need to understand couple of things. To access this Linux machine from your local, one port you should be enable using SSH called 22 port number. Then only you can, basically this port is nothing but a door for your VM, guys. There should be a door. By using this door you can access. Now here the door is basically this is 22, I should enable. Then only I can access this application here. Okay, now these security groups, now right now if you see, default type is SSH, range is 22. Who can access? Now this is your local system. If someone want to access, now this guy has a different IP address, this guy has one IP address, right? Now this guy has one IP address. When you create this Linux machine, basically two types of IP addresses will available. Anyway, we'll discuss soon that activity as well. One for the public IP, another for private IP. These two IP addresses will allocated by your machine when you create. Now this guy some IP address like a 192.45.32.45. This is the IP address. Now here this is another IP address, maybe instead of 45 let me take as a 43. Now this guy also want to access this Linux machine, this guy also want to access the Linux machine. This is nothing but inbound rules. Basically this is called inbound rules. You are accessing from local to Ubuntu machine. To do this activity, source whom my IP address only, my local system IP address only can access. Or if you make it anywhere, anyone can access your basically your Linux machine if you choose source type as a anywhere here. Remember this point here. Okay, now this is one security group role. In this way, as part of our whole DevOps course, lot of ports we should enable here. Incoming traffic, Basically right now this is fine. In the next session I will discuss security groups. What are the port numbers we should enable in secure manner? Basically on the high level perspective, we should enable like a TCP, now SSH, basically as a 22, okay, 8080 anyone can access. If it is a Outlook you are communicating, maybe I can as a 25 SMTP port number, 443 for security port number, 465 this is for Gmail communication, custom TCPC, lot of ports we can enable, but later on time will explain you those port numbers as part of our course here. Okay, now here what we done, security groups we created here. Now if you go to bottom down, by default you will get 8 GB of memory. If you want we can install 15 GB as well, but right now 8 GB is sufficient for us right now here guys. If you choose 15 GB, charges are applicable, not more than 50 to 100 rupees here guys, if you use hardly 3 to 4 hours also. Okay, now here I need one virtual machine and come down here, that's it. There is a launch instance, click on this this option, your VM will be created. As I told, when you create a Linux, two IP addresses will be generated. What are the things? Public IP address and private IP address here. To access, why two IP addresses are? Now if you ask that question, now basically inside your AWS account you created another virtual machine. Assume that this is a another VM, okay, Linux VM. Then if you they want to communicate between these two things, if they want to communicate, talk to with each other, then a private IP address is useful. Now to access outside world, I should use how to access basically this application. To access this application, HTTP your IP address colon your port number. This is the syntax by using the public IP address. Now you want to connect this machine from your local system, right? Now you are see your EC2 machine is created. Now if you click on this particular machine, now observe carefully, public IPv4 address, see, this is your basically your IP address here. This is your public IP address and this is your private IP address here. Now to access from your local system, I want to use this is the IP address. Even it is generated one domain name service DNS. This is the DNS. As of now, these all the things not required. This is sufficient here. Let me copy this IP address. Okay. Now how to access from your local system? To access in your local system, we need a software called MOBA XTOM. This is the software for Mac users, Linux users. By using SSH, you can log in directly. But who are Windows, you are performing. This is the software is required here. Now go to the browser. Just type as a MOBA XTOM. This is the website here. Just you can download. Click on this option. Download. Home edition you can choose. Download now. Once your installation is completed, once your installation is completed in your local system, open a software called see MOBA XTOM here. Choose this option here. Okay, now I have a couple of things are there. Let me remove all the sessions. Okay, guys, do one thing. Okay, anyway this is created, we'll try to do security groups also will enable now guys, so that next stop when we discuss it will be easy for you here. Now see what are the security groups are there. Basically these security groups are two rules we have, one for the inbound rules, another for the outbound rules. To access your application, we should configure inbound rules. Outbound means from Linux machine, from this machine, to communicate with external application, to communicate with your local system, to access other. This is called outbound rules here. Now we are sending traffic from local to inside, from here. This is called inbound, this is called outbound. So we should concentrate on the inbound rules here. How you can do that? Yes, I created the Linux machine, but still how I can add my security group. Okay, now what you can do, click on this option. Now here if you see in the bottom, you will have some kind of a security group you will have. See, no, not required. In the left hand in the search bar, just type as a security groups. Security group. No, security group. See here, security group here, choose this option. Okay, now see here, I have lot of security groups are there. Out of that, in today I created one security group called DevOps underscore security. Click on this option. Now if you see in the bottom, there is a two tabs are there, inbound rules and outbound rules. Click on inbound rules and come down, and there is an option called edit. Click on this activity. Throughout our DevOps course, one time we are enabling these port numbers, so when you are practicing also, make sure you enable these port numbers in your local system. Now here add a type as SSH. Now I want to add as a another protocol, suppose like a TCP protocol. Now I want to enable a port number of suppose 80 port number. This is one. From where? From anywhere IPv4 address. Okay, you want to add, sometimes you see 8080 port number you are able to see. This is anywhere, this is one port number. Now I want to enable some kind of a SMTP port number. See, SMT port number is 25. Okay, I want to make it from anywhere. Okay, and I have a another port number SMTS. This is for email notification basically. SMTS port number 465. Okay, and suppose I want to add as a range. You want to enable a range port numbers. How you can do that? Suppose, see how you open the range means here. Suppose 3000 hyphen 32 767. This is one port range. Now here also anywhere I can access this application. This is also anywhere I can access this application. Okay, SSH anywhere, all the things I'm enabling. Okay, suppose you have a specific port number. Now assume that 6443 port number. Like this you can access all the applications. And suppose you want to add as a custom TCP, suppose 9000 port number, suppose you want to access. In this way you can access all the ports here. Now this is not required, the range I opened here, this is fine. These are the minimum things you should be enable the port numbers as part of your security group here. Later you will understand why I enable these port numbers to you. Click on the save rules tab. Okay, okay, it is choosing IPv4, and let me choose save the rules. Yes, successfully completed. You want to delete a specific things? Yes, let me delete unused security groups as well. Now it is saying make it as a delete here. Let me click on the delete. Now still I have couple of things are there, that's okay. I have a Jenkins JE security. Let me don't delete your default security group, that is a whole AWS is providing to you in all the regions. So you need to use that security groups in some use cases. Now I am using VPC with the security group. Okay, now this part is completed. Now let me go to our EC2 instance, choose this option. Okay, now here what we can do now, we have our Linux machine, choose on this machine. Okay, now click on this option, how to access. Now this is your public IPv4 address. Go to here. Now click, there is an option called settings, one time configuration. Session should be ideal. Click on configuration, SSH. Choose this option guys. If you don't use also your VM, it will not log off and it will not restart. Okay, to disable that activity, my SSH should be alive, lifelong, keep alive. This option should be enabled. Now there is an option called sessions, SSH. and provide your IP address. A default username for the Ubuntu has a Ubuntu. If you take AWS with EC2, Amazon Linux, EC2-user is a default username. And there is an option called advanced SS settings, a private key. I told right, you need to access your application to .pem file. Now this is my key. Choose this option, click on this activity, and click on OK. Now successfully we are connected to basically which machine? Your machine we connected here. See, we connected to this machine here, Ubuntu machine. We are connected successfully here. Till here, hope you are good how to connect. Now this is our Linux VM. To clear the screen, now onwards lot of commands you will get. There is an option as a clear or control plus L. Any option you can use. I am using control L option to clear the screen. Now if you see, you are in which user. Now see, I logged in with which user, guys? Ubuntu is the user. Now if you say as a LS, nothing is there. PWD, nothing is there. Okay. Now I want to make it exit. What will happen? Logout is happen. Let me relog in again. Clear the screen here. Now inside this virtual machine, I want to perform minimum basic commands here. What kind of commands I want to discuss now? So directory Unix, everything in terms of directory structures, Linux, that is later on I will explain. Initially I want to discuss with you minimum basic commands here. You want to see in this particular what is the current directory, pwd. If you see here, this is my root directory, home underscore Ubuntu here, guys. Okay, let me try to increase the font size. No, I think increase the font size. Okay, I don't see any option here. Let me see control plus plus. No, it's not working. Okay, that's fine. Now let me increase font size to you guys. Okay, now ls is the first command, navigational commands. Ls, see, I have a empty of data. Okay, I want to create a directory, mkdir. I'm create mkdir, nothing but to create a directory in the Linux machine. Now any name you can keep it. Assume that I'm creating directory as a, suppose, Java Express. Now this is my directory. Now use ls command. Are able to see a directory is exist. How to go to this directory? Cd Java Express. Just type cd Java, use tab. See, automatically. Now if you want to create a file into this directory, we have a command called touch command. Now touch.1.txt. I want to create another text file. I want to create another text file. See, now use ls command. Now are able to see, guys, using ls command I can able to see what are the files exist in this directory here. Okay, now from here what are the commands? Pwd, current working directory. Ls command to display all the files information. But I want to know these files when it is created. Now use one command, ls-l command. It will display list of files. Now there is a, you are able to see there is one kind of couple of things you are able to see. Let me copy this one and go to your application. I want to discuss basically in detail about this activity here. Now when you type ls-l, you are able to see some couple of things here. This is nothing but, okay, this is your text file. Okay, now what I will do, let me create a mkdir, suppose Bhaskar I created. Now ls-l. If you observe here, this is for the files. This is your directory. Bhaskar is a directory. Starting letter represents D. whether it is a directory, whether it is a file. D represents your directory, hyphen represents this is a file. This is the meaning here, guys, the first one. Now later if you observe, couple of things are there: read permission, write permission, and X represents execute permission. Again, these first three characters basically you're able to, if you convert in detail about this activity, okay, here hyphen represents either file or directory. Next three represents here. One more thing, R represents read, W represents write, X represents execute permission. Basically for this file, I have a read permission, write permission, and execute permission. Here you can ask a question, but why RW? Means it is divided into three categories. First three characters represents user directory. First character represents basically it is a user directory here. Okay, next three character represents group, user group, and this is for the other users here. Now basically here D represents either file or directory, user permissions, which grouper it is linked, and other user here. This is the syntax here. First three called user has read permission, write permission, no execute permission. For this particular user we have a group here. For group users I have read write, there is no execute. For other users I have only read permission. Now this is the understanding. Later on time I will explain how to change read permission, write permission, execute as well. Right now on the high level picture, try to understand about RWX. Okay, now here Ubuntu, basically this is a user and this is called group. User, this is called Ubuntu as a user. And next Ubuntu, when you have to create a user, default username and group also same. That means Ubuntu is user and Ubuntu is a group here. Ubuntu user, Ubuntu, and at what time your file is created. Now that is the meaning here, this complete syntax here. Yes, you can change the permissions as well, but later I will explain about the permissions about this particular files. But the main concentration today is to know about the Linux commands here. Couple of commands we executed till now, right? Suppose what we can do, what is the next commands we can do? Okay, navigational commands are completed just now, guys. What are the navigational commands? Now navigation commands means, okay, ls command, ls hyphen l list of files and directories, cd is change the directory, pwd current working directory, mkdir create a new directory. Now cd, now let me see in couple of things. Cd Bhaskar, enter. Ls command, nothing is there, right? Clear the screen. pwd current working directory. Now I want to log into the home, cd home. See, now I'm in which directory? Home directory. Ls command. See, I'm in which user? Ubuntu user here. Suppose you are going to inside a Ubuntu, ls command, let me go to Java Express, and again I have a Bhaskar. Now you are in which directory? Under home, Ubuntu, Java Express, and Bhaskar. Now this is for complete directory, but I want to go to directly your root directory. Just we have an option cd enter. That's it. See here, dollar represents a user information here. Now if you use as a sudo su, now see, right now I'm in which directory? Root user. Now here use ls command. Okay, now see here, ls command. Now this is now when you are creating a virtual machine, two users are available, one for the Ubuntu user, another for the root user. In root user, I have a directory structure. You are able to see this is called Unix directory. Later I will explain this directory structure as well. Now here the main goal, you need to understand cd dot dot means before going to one directory, previous directory. If you use directly with cd home directory, you can navigate here. Sudo is nothing but root user permissions. It has a special permissions. That is the meaning here. This is about your navigational commands here. Okay, for today, this is all about. In the next session, we'll discuss about file operations, process management, how to install the softwares, networking, lot of other things we'll discuss as well. Okay, guys, if anyone, okay, anyone want to, okay, basically enroll these courses, we have our website. Let me log in with, this is our website, guys, javaexpressacademy.com. Here we have an option called courses tab. Okay, and who are watching the session from the YouTube, for those guys, you see here DevOps for developers. Okay, right now it's a very low price. If you want, you can enroll. Price will be increased in the future, definitely. See here, git videos are there, complete git, all the types of git commands are there, and AWS. Okay, and we have a Jenkins, Kubernetes, Docker. Future our plan is to add our git. We added Linux, shell scripting, real-time scripting, then security, lot of things we have a plan to add in this one. If you are interested, you can enroll this course. Once you purchase the course, you can watch the videos as well, guys. Okay, so that's all today's session, guys, and we'll continue in the next topic for the Linux pending things as well, guys. Okay, thank you.